So we're going to end our last conversation with this young lady who is going to actually speak about grooming, man. It's a very kind of call to action, but also a final PSA, man, for those out there who could have experienced this, been going through this. Because if you're going through it in the wrong manner, man, we do not condone that here at the No Middleman. We don't want anyone to feel like they're being taken advantage of or anything of that nature. So, I wanted to end this with a final PSA for things to look out for and things to think about as you're moving through life. So, here we go.
My comments told me that when I was 12 years old, I could have told my abuser no. For context, at 12 years old, I was sexually abused by a 37-year-old man. This lasted for 2.5 years.
Let me start that over. I had to turn the volume up.
So, a guy in my comments told me that when I was 12 years old, I could have told my abuser no. For context, at 12 years old, I was sexually abused by a 37-year-old man. This lasted for 2.5 years. And maybe this man just didn't understand the grooming process. But a predator is very intentional on grooming his subject. Number one, he built my trust. So before the abuse began, he was a kind, loving father figure. Once you trust someone, you have a sense of loyalty towards them, especially a father figure for a young lady. His interactions got closer and closer, and they felt more and more inappropriate, but he was also desensitizing me to my red flags. Then after he built the trust and loyalty, he switched. So now you have trust, loyalty, and fear. He manipulated me into believing that if I were to tell him no, he would flip the story, make it seem like I was the aggressor when I thought that I was pregnant by him. He told me that I would break my mom's heart. I would be responsible for her unhappiness if I told her. He also pushed me to become sexually active with a boy my age so that it could seem like I was pregnant by that boy. The manipulation and the mind games for a 12 to 14-year old is what made it hard to say no, or not even say no, but for him to honor and respect my no. I was nothing but prey to him. So, a guy in my comments told me that when I was 12 years old, I could have told my abuser no. For context, at 12 years old, I was sexually abused by a 37-year-old man. This lasted for 2.5 years. And maybe this man just didn't understand the grooming process. But a predator is very intentional on grooming his subject. Number one, he built my trust. So before the abuse began, he was a kind, loving father figure.
So I want to stop there first because I want to break these things down because I think it's very vital because we were talking about the David case at the very beginning. We did have some, well, I had a question about, do we feel like somebody at the age of 13 can be like emotional, mature, things of that nature. But if you hear her and listen to her, she was pretty much similar age. Trust for her looked at like someone who would have been like a father figure, a mentor, like something that would have been normal for someone at that age. So just something to think about as we're processing these things that she's saying. So number one was trust, which is what we are talking about tonight, the process of gaining trust for the finale of grooming. So trust is number one.
Once you trust someone, you have a sense of loyalty towards them, especially a father figure for a young lady. His interactions got closer and closer, and they felt more and more inappropriate, but he was also desensitizing me to my red flags. Then after he built the trust and loyalty, he switched.
So after trust, she said loyalty was built, right? So in the midst of all of this, she felt that the trust, now I must be loyal to this person. I must take care of this person. This person's take care of me. Who knows? Maybe getting school clothes, maybe make sure she eating at night, all these type of things.
So now you have trust, loyalty, and fear. He manipulated me into believing that if I were to tell him no, he would flip the story, make it seem like I was the aggressor when I thought that I was pregnant by him. He told me.
So, and then the last thing she stated was fear. And at that moment is where probably would have heard more of her immaturity by age, right? Because at that point, the fear, he started getting her with other men that was her age to kind of desensitize her because she did, get pregnant at the time, things of that nature, so no one would think it was his. Um, what is your guys' thoughts about this? This has been our third episode and the finale of grooming. I know we've seen a lot of stories. We talked about a lot of different examples of it. With that being said, I wanted to end on a very high note of like things to really look out for, especially any parents that might catch this on a rewatch, any single mothers that might catch this on a single on the rewatch. Anybody that continues, again, I'm not telling people to shelter their life, but if you're sending your kids to summer camps, and I think there's dialogue that we need to start having as adults with our children, with younger adults that we're around. We really need to start paying attention to those red flags, because she even said her red flags, he started to even be able to desensitize them, right? And who knows what that might have meant in her aspect of things. So what is your guys' thoughts about this final message, so that we can give everybody something to really like tangible to take home, something to think about? Uh, that's really what our message was throughout this series of grooming.
Mm. I think as a parent, we need to be in our children's business, at least until they get out the household, all up and through there. um, we need to monitor who's in their circle, um, and also um, not only monitor who's in their circle, but their parents as well, because their parents has influence on them, um, and see what kind of lifestyles their parents live. It's it's a tough subject, you know, because you don't wanna over you don't want to close the umbrella on your children or on people who are close to you, but then you don't want to not have an umbrella on them as well. So it's a tough conversation to have even with your kids. You essentially have to build trust with your kids to let them know that it's okay to be open with you, to know what's going on with them as well. Because some kids do shut down, and some kids think that they can't tell their parents anything because of maybe fear of trouble that they might get into. So I know there's no children watching this, but I would encourage the parents to encourage their children to be open with them about things that they're experiencing and things that are going on.
My mind goes to a village. When you are unable to have these serious conversations about predatory behavior and grooming behavior, if you're afraid to have these type of conversations with your children, that's when you need an uncle or an auntie, sister or brother, someone that's close to the family. You know what I mean? Like, I asked the men, like, if your son, like your son's head coach of his football team was having these conversations with him, or his basketball team was having this conversation with him, would you be comfortable with that coach having that conversation with these kids? Like, say, if it's one of us assistant coaches or one of these trainers out here that's coming at y'all, because that actually happened in a college. Sadusky did the same thing to college kids, 18, 19, 20 years old. He was doing that. And his name's Sandusky. And like, it takes a village. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to sit back. It takes, you gotta have these conversations. You know what I mean? You gotta know who you have. It's diligence, man. When you having kids, man, you gotta do a lot of due diligence. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta have due diligence, because you can't be around them all the time. So you got to have these hard hitting conversations. You gotta have multiple check-ins with them and make sure that this isn't happening. You got to be that parent, not only with the disciplinary, you also have to be that one with the, you know, open dialogue, you know what I'm saying, with your kids, because it's crazy, man. I living in my bubble, I don't think like that. I don't think in that nature about predatory behavior. That's why it's so shocking when I be hearing it. I know it exists. You know what I mean? I know it exists. And it's just like, I don't think like that. You know what I mean? But now it's like, you hear it. I see why these parents keep their kids in the house, and we be like, man, we'll never see no kids outside playing. You know what I mean? And this,
No, you cannot spend the night. No, he cannot spend the night.
like, do we? Okay, so we say that no, you can't spend the night. Do you know, buddy? Do you know his parents like that? Do you really know like who you dealing with? Like, is it comfortable to be having these same like, man, I gotta ask you some questions, man. My son gonna be around your son. They real good friends. They've been hanging out. They've been cool since 3rd grade. Now they playing football together, and these boys gonna be hanging out and having a little slumber party, whatever the thing may be, little sleepovers. Man, hey, you ain't on that type of time, is you, bro? You know what I mean? Because, hey, bro, hey, I don't play about my babies now. I don't play about my kids, man. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to find out who you are, man. Let me know something. Do you really vet the parents of the kids that you know what I'm saying, that your kids are dealing with? It's a lot of due diligence that parents got to do, because you just can't shelter that kid in the house. You got to do a lot of due diligence. You got to check them. You got to ask them hard-hitting questions. And if he's offended, be like, well, what type of time you on? Because I'm ready for you to ask me the same type of question, so I can tell you about me and what I believe in and what I stand on. Because this is a warning. This should be a warning between you and I. You giving me yours and I'm giving you mine. Like, man, this type of behavior, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Please take care of your kids, man. Take care of your kids. Make sure you give your kids the open floor to speak their minds, and you know, for real, like, and let them know daddy coming. Let them know mama coming. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, can't just keep them locked in the crib. That parent should be what we will do. Man.
Do y'all know anybody who ever experienced it? Like that it would be your age now? Like, have y'all ever had someone that experienced this?